Hello everyone and welcome to our lecture today. In the previous videos, you have gotten to know about conceptualizing the content of your course and how to organize that content according to different patterns like structural, topical, or thematic. In this video, we will look at a very important stage in course designing, that is adapting and developing language materials. Firstly, let's look at the definition of ELT materials. What are ELT materials? According to Tomlinson, ELT materials are defined as published or unpublished data in any medium or collection of media used for the purpose of language teaching and learning. The materials may be diverse in form, content, and delivery mode. They may include textbooks, workbooks, teacher guides, audio tapes, videotapes or discs, test scripts, test banks, readers, call programs. In short, ELT materials can be anything used by teachers or learners to facilitate language learning. ELT materials can be those that are commercially produced for a large or small audience, or they can be genuine or authentic, or created or pedagogic. Authentic or genuine materials are text, photographs, video clips, and other teaching resources that were not specifically prepared for teaching purposes. Created or pedagogic materials refers to textbooks and other specifically developed instructional resources. ELT materials may be designed to stand alone, replace teachers, or be used together with teachers. There are two kinds of materials: content materials for data and information sources, and process materials for guidelines for learners' use of communicative knowledge and abilities. In the view of Tomlinson's, materials development is anything done by writer, teachers, learners to provide language input sources, explore sources to promote language learning. Materials developer may write textbook, tell stories, bring advertisement to class, express opinion, provide example of language use. Materials need to be developed based on how language can be effectively learned. Materials development involves one of all four of the following activities: creating, choosing, adapting, organizing. The purposes of above-mentioned activities are to enable students to achieve the objectives that will have them reach the goals of the course. Materials development encompasses decisions about the actual materials you use, whether you will use authentic or pedagogic materials, or would it be better if you combine both in a single lesson? Do you need to make any changes considering the time and resource constraints? The activities students do. Which activities would you use to stir up the atmosphere? And which one would you use to settle down the overexcited students? Would you move from one activity to another smoothly? How the materials and activities are organized into lessons. What linkage should there be to match the activities with the materials? The flowchart shows the step in developing materials. The first stage is to determine the organizing principles. For example, course designer need to decide whether the course should be organized according to the themes, genres, or tasks. Next is identifying the course unit based on the organizing principle. Once the units are determined, the next step is to sequence the units, or in other words, put them in a logical order. Based on the organizing principles and the sequence of units, we should decide what should be the unit content and choose the developing materials. Finally, the last stage is to organize the unit content. However, the process does not simply go one way like that. Course designers have to constantly revisit the previous stages to make adjustments during the process. For example, while organizing the unit content, it is important to review the sequence of units and make changes if necessary. Here are some ways to develop materials. One common way to develop materials is materials design, which means writing your own material. This process might be time-consuming, costly, and require great expertise for a material writer. But the advantage is that you can design and sequence the content as you want without having to depend on other materials. When the process of writing begins, further decisions need to be made. Choosing input and sources. Input refers to anything that initiates the learning process and that students respond to in some way in using the materials. Selecting exercise types. This is the most difficult decisions because the teachers need to create exercise that engage learner in the use of skills and processes related to specific language teaching objectives. Another easier way to develop materials is material adaptation. Course designers will modify existing materials to best serve the course purposes and suit students' needs. Some of the changes you may want to make to existing materials are modifying content. Content might need to be changed because it does not suit the target learners. Adding or deleting content. The book may contain too much or too little information for the programs. Reorganizing content. A teacher may decide to reorganize the syllabus of the book and arrange the units in what he or she considers are most suitable order. Within a unit, the teacher may decide not to follow the sequence of activities in the unit, but to reorder them for a particular reason. Addressing omissions. The text may omit items that teacher feels are important. Hence, it follows the teachers may want to add something more. Modifying tasks. Exercise and activities may need to be changed to give them an additional focus. Extending tasks. Exercise may contain insufficient practice and additional practice tasks may need to be added. Whichever option you choose, it all starts with material evaluation. When developing materials, it is extremely important to keep in mind the factors that have determined the appropriateness of material. What are these factors? I'm sure you all know them already. Here's the list of considerations for developing materials. The students and their needs, the goals and objectives of the course, the view of how students learn and of students and teachers' roles in the classroom, the aspects of language students need to learn, the types of activities. Here are some considerations for developing materials regarding making choices. For material, we need to decide the level of authenticity of materials, whether it should be authentic, semi-authentic, or pedagogical. When designing tasks and activities, we also need to consider how close the activity should be to the real world. Should a task be purely pedagogical, or should it resemble real-world conversation? Or if possible, should it actually happen in real life? Answering the questions, we can decide the types of activities to be used in our course. We also need to pay attention to the language output, like whether it should be controlled response or open-ended output. We will also look at some considerations for designing activities. Those are 15 principles of activity designing proposed by Graves. Activities should be relevant to students' experience and knowledge, to draw on what they know before moving to what is new, to validate the experience, to use what they know as the language basis for the lesson, and to engage their interest. Activities should be relevant to students outside of class needs, so that the needs can be met. Activities should build students' confidence, so students can feel confident in transferring what learned outside of class. Activities should allow students to problem solve, discover, analyze, so that students will be engaged and so that they will use the language. Activities should have students develop specific skills and strategies so that they can transfer the skills to other learning situations. Activities should have students develop specific language and skills they need for authentic communication, so that the students learn and practice vocabulary, grammar, functions, etc. that they can use in real situations. Activities should integrate the 4 skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing, because the 4 skills mutually reinforce each other. Activities should enable students to understand how a text is structured so that the students can gain access to similar texts. Activities should enable students to understand cultural context, cultural differences, so that they can have more confidence in target culture and understand their own culture better. Activities should enable students to develop social awareness, so that they can navigate systems in target culture. Activities should be as authentic as possible, so that students see the relation with real language use and they can gain experience with real language use. Activities should vary the roles and groupings within the class so that students get different types of practice and responsibilities with respect to social context, so that students can experience and analyze different social roles. Activities should be of various types and purposes to provide adequate practice. Activities should use authentic text and rarely when possible, so that students can have access to language as used in the real world. Activities should employ a variety of materials to engage students and to meet different learning needs. So that's all we have to share with you in this lesson. I hope you had a good time learning. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.